everyone. This is Norman Kochnick here, looking at a match between India and Australia that's pretty much in the ascendancy for India. India, of course, came into this match with high expectations, and they've kind of met them. We start back at the beginning of the day with Australia winning the toss and electing to bat, which you would argue is a good decision to make at the beginning of the day. But heading towards the end of the day, which was still got some half an hour to go before the end of the day's play, Australia were all out for 177, and India have gone into bat, and they are currently none for 54. And we're going to be joined now by hello, Chris Vernon.
Hello, Norman. How are you?
Very well indeed. Watching a match. I would love to be in India now, and I'm hoping to be there for the third and fourth test between these two countries. Of course, St. Dharmashala and then followed by Ahmedabad. But yes, we've got a test match on now. You're here as well to talk about what's going to happen in the future, which will be a match next week, which will be between New Zealand and England, which is the 16th of February.
Yep.
Which will be intriguing, won't it, to have Brendan McCullum versing his own team, or former team, at home.
Yeah, no, it will be. Just quite exciting time, really, I think, as an English fan with Test cricket. I think they're
magnificent,
going in different directions, and then it's going to be an interesting year because obviously after the Tests against New Zealand, we've got an Ashes series, and then England are obviously in India next winter. So it's going to be interesting to see how Bazball goes in Aussies and then over in the subcontinent as well.
So when are England playing India?
I imagine it's this time next year. I know it's definitely next winter, so it might be before Christmas or after Christmas, right. But similar time, I think.
Okay, that's fantastic. But let's talk about the current match. Australia, I mean, look, I don't know about you, but have you seen the team selections for today's match?
Yeah, I've watched quite a bit of it this morning. Obviously, it starts at 4 a.m. over here, so I won't know. I missed the first sort of session in a little bit, but I've watched the last hour or so. And yeah, interesting team selection from Australia, to say the least.
Well, I mean, in particular, only going with 4 recognised bowlers and one being a debutant.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. The problem is we've spoken about it before, what a good all-rounder does to the balance of the sides, what the Stokes for England, Jadeja and Ashwin to a certain extent for India. But Cameron Green not being fit is a massive blow and just really skews the balance of that side, doesn't it?
Yeah, but look, this is what's very interesting. The last Test match was in Sydney, and they had virtually the same side. Hazelwood, I don't think, was in the team, nor was they had literally the only changes have been Hanscom in for head and Agar out and Todd Murphy in. And the previous test, they also had 4 recognised bowlers against a very substandard South African side, which they weren't exposed. But they're being exposed now. I mean, for God's sake, India haven't lost a wicket yet. They're done for 55. Cummins is bowling fairly pedestrian. Boland's not as effective on Indian pitches. You've got Nathan Lyon, who really is not a tearaway spin bowler that takes wickets multiply. And a guy on debut, it's quite a scary bowling attack.
Yeah, I think is Travis Head injured? Is he? I assume he's
no, he's not. Now the reason why they left Travis Head out, and I kind of agree, he was in great form over the summer, but he's been atrocious in any form of subcontinent match.
Yeah, but isn't he your leading run scorer in Test cricket this year, or he's averaging 70?
No, I'm not going to deny that. He doesn't necessarily deserve to be dropped, but Hanscom is said to be better.
Awful, isn't he? Hanscom hasn't scored a run, and that's bizarre. I thought Head was injured. I can't believe that they've dropped him.
No, he's not injured at all.
But Head went for a bad patch in England initially, and he's obviously found some form, and he's obviously worked out how to bat a bit at the Test level. But to drop him because they don't fancy him, and fair enough if after the first 2 tests he doesn't lay a bat on it. But for a bloke in such good form who's played such key innings for Australia in the last 2 or 3 months, to drop him for a bloke that's not done much is a pretty odd selection, really.
Oh, okay. I will not defend that. You are right. You're totally right.
especially
I
when
don't
they pick
get it.
Renshaw in there as well, who's not done anything either.
No, and Renshaw's somebody who I thought was deserving because he's been doing well at domestic level. So was Hanscom, by the way. But anyway, yeah, head selection was particularly weird, mainly because he can also bowl a bit. And we need a fifth bowler. We have not effectively got a fifth bowler. Labuschagne's not a fifth bowler. And Smith, well, he used to be in his previous life, he was. So we're atrociously short on bowlers. And India are going to absolutely smack us. They're already, Rohit Sharma's cruised to 42. They're none for 59 now. Rahul's just, Cummins is looking very ordinary on this pitch as well. It's a diabolical selection, if you ask me. Intriguingly enough, we've got a World Test Championship coming up on June 7th, which I'm going to be there at the Oval, and it'll probably be between these two teams.
Well, if you've got a spare ticket, Norman, I'll come and have a couple of beers with you.
Sure, you can come along. I'll invite you, for sure.
Done. Sounds good to me. I'm in.
Yeah. So, but okay, take it back a step. So Australia and India probably deserve to be in the World Test Championship final coming up. England, you would argue, also deserve it on the second half of this WTC period. And they probably deserve it as well. It would have been interesting if England would have adopted the Bazball approach back at the beginning of the cycle. They probably would have been in the final as well.
Yeah, I imagine so. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we'd have lost in the West Indies. I don't think the West Indies are a great side, and we were just too negative in the West Indies. I don't think. I think we might have beaten India at home in that because it was we beat them in the one-off last summer. Over the first three tests, I think we were poor, and I think we're quite hard to beat at home generally when we play positive cricket. So yeah, it's impossible to say. I think that the cycle, I would change the World Test Championship cycle. I think that it works in premise at the moment, but I think that there's some changes that can be made. I think you should do it over a longer period and you have to play everyone home and away. You can't have a 2-year cycle where I don't think England have played in India in this cycle, and I don't think Australia played in England. So how can you have 3 or 4 of the best sides playing over a competition when they haven't played one of the other best teams in their own or away conditions? So there's ways to improve it, I think. But I would. You could easily make a case that England are the best Test side in the world at the moment, but haven't been.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, actually. And we're going to see proof of that when Australia plays against them later in this year. I think Australia, despite having had the number 1 position, apparently, with India actually number 2, over the summer, they played 2 very substandard Test series. The West Indies was a joke. South Africa did not have a batter who could save themselves. The bowling was okay through Nokia, but that's it. Australia had no test at all, and I was always doubtful about the Australian team. And it's starting to show a bit of cred that they're going to have a lot of problems. Warner, despite scoring a double century over the summer, did you see the ball that got him out today?
Yeah, it just looked like he didn't for pace a bit.
It was awful, to be honest with you. Khawaja was a bit unlucky. I think Labuschagne's, that was his first effort in India. It was pretty commendable. So it's interesting. The Australian side, and now that they've dropped Travis Head, which apparently I think Crash Craddock is one of the journalists, reckons it could be doing head in, supposedly. He could be actually quite distraught that he didn't get selected.
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you're in England's position now, you can make arguments for that because say Bairstow's fit for the summer, it means probably one of Ben Folkes or or Ben Duckett or Ollie Pope might get dropped. If you're going to get Bairstow in, Folkes probably will go, although they like having the best keeper in. So if Folkes plays and Bairstow plays, you've got to drop Brook, which won't happen. He's got 3 Test hundreds in his 4 games, or you've got to drop Pope. Won't happen. He's scored 100 in Pakistan and has looked good. You're never going to drop the one who's been out of form the most is Root, and you're not going to drop Root or Stokes. So Duckett probably has to go. as an opener, and they'll have to maybe shove someone up. But then you're looking at a specialist opening spot for a bloke who bats at 6 in Test cricket. So I imagine they'll drop folk. So you can understand why someone there might feel a bit hard done by. But for Head, who's been your form batsman, along with
but that's a different problem. You've got too many good batsmen. I don't think Australia can say they've got too many good batsmen.
That's what I mean. I think Head will feel if Head got dropped because there was Ponting, 2 Wars, Steve Smith, and Labuschagne in the batting order, then you can get it. But when he's got Renshaw and Hanscom, who, let's face it, don't look anything special and have hardly got many test runs behind them, then I think he has every right to feel a bit disgruntled.
And I think you're totally right. Just on the point of all-rounder, they had Agar and they were trying to persist with him. Now, he can bat. He definitely can bat. And he would have been very useful as a 5th bowler in this match. Why wouldn't he have left him in and not included either Hanscom or Renshaw? I mean, that would have been the logic to me.
The problem is he's just bang average, isn't he?
Yeah.
You haven't seen my headline, by the way, underneath my name.
No, I can't read it. What does it say?
Up the rabbits.
Oh, God, that's great. Well, it is the year of the rabbit, Chris.
Up the bunnies.
Oh, not bunnies, the rabbits. Thank you very much. So it's good to have you back on, Chris. What have you been up to? You want to update your audience? Because people always ask me every damn bloody week, someone posts a comment, where's Chris? Where's Chris?
I'm sure they have. I've just been flat out. I started my own company at the back end of last year. So first 6 months, it's been busy. It's an interesting economic climate at the moment in the UK. So just been busy, just trying to keep busy, really. I was told I had some paparazzi that have been following you around, which you didn't know about. They've been seeing you in the nets, and every time you get asked, you say, I'm just trying to make sure that I don't get out to Norman Koshak when I play him at an MCC venue. I haven't had a cricket. I've got a new bat actually that came last week. That's I've actually ordered some new stickers for it, and it's I've gone for the old school Bass Vampire. So you'll the one behind you, which I saw is quite. Yeah, but no, our first net session is this Sunday, so I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of it. Really.
Well, did you see that? I've got this Murali Shane Warne signposts here. I've actually got 2. They're just different numberings of the same string of numbers of prints. I might bring one to England and I might donate it to your club or something.
Well, I
don't mean the Chris Vernon wall.
No, I wouldn't have much. If you've got any Steve Smith memorabilia, he played for my club. He played 10 years ago. He played for Stevenage. So
I'll bring something. I've got heaps of memorabilia. For God's sake, I've got so much. I've definitely got some Steve Smith stuff. I'll bring that with me for sure.
You should try and come down to a game on a Saturday if you're about. Come and watch a Saturday game, depending on what you're doing.
Well, he's available. We've got a few ring-ins to our squad this year too. We might have people like Kadich and the like. I think we've got a few that are going to be joining us. So
very nice.
The MCC residents are actually playing on the SCG in a matter of a week or 2.
Very nice. Wish I was in Australia to play.
That was meant to be a leverage point to, get Lords when we go there in June. But that may not happen. Okay, so back to this match. 177 is the below. Apparently, the average on this deck for the first innings is 185, 186. So one sort of here doesn't sound too low, but I'm afraid it is. It's far too low, isn't it?
There's a lot of talk about the wicket, and historically, last few years, the talk of the wickets in India has been a big talking point. From what I've seen today, it's spinning a bit, but it certainly isn't as bad as the press were making it out to be. And I'll happily say that. I think that there will be worse pitches. I think that the key here is just the quality of home batting. I think India's batting lineup is just going to be much better at batting on home wickets, and just look at the quality of spinners on show. You've got Nathan Lyon, he's a very good, solid Test bowler. Don't get me wrong. And then you've got a guy on debut who's played 5 games, and India have got Ashwin, Jadeja, and Axar Patel.
Jadeja's taken 5 wickets and bowled magnificently.
Yeah, and he's a quality bowler. It's just a massive difference in quality on the bowling front. But no, the pitch is spun a little bit. There certainly have been a lot worse and will be worse, I'm sure, in future. But no, I don't think there's anything been massively wrong with the wicket, which is a good thing, because I think that especially historically last few years, you want to be just talking about the cricket in India, not the quality of the surface.
Now, India are now number 1 in T20, number 1 in ODI. I mean, admittedly, you guys won the World Cup here last year, and they're second in the Test Championship. Not a bad effort by India, I must say. Okay, back to this match. So we got 177. I was disappointed with Khawaja, but Khawaja I still rate. I think he's worthy on this surface. Yeah, they're going to have to work out what they're going to do. But see, they need Cam Green needs to be rushed back in the team. But there would have been some validity in having another bowler. Can you explain to me why they've only gone in with 4 bowlers?
I guess they're probably thinking that with the way that they thought the pitch might have been, there was a lot of talk about it being a big turner, that the premium probably is keep having a slightly longer batting lineup, because the ability to score runs would be a lot harder than, look at Joe Root last time. Joe Root took 5 for 7. If they were probably thinking if the quality of wicket is spinning, then a Labuschagne or a Head, if he'd played, or Steve Smith might be able to bowl a few overs and take some wickets. So therefore, the premium is scoring runs, and they've probably just prioritised that over someone, because they probably thought their 4th or 5th choice spinners would probably be able to take some wickets. So they needed to have people in there that would score runs. Morning, Grav.
Hello, guys.
Hello, David.
Norman, your health's not got any better since the last time I spoke to you. Still coughing away.
Just a cough. I'm perfectly fine. Bit on the hairy side, but otherwise I'm fine. How are you, David?
I'm fine. Yeah, not too bad.
And Chris is here. Now, did you guys meet up?
We did briefly last summer down in Canterbury, yes. Yeah, we did. Probably had a half-hour chat, didn't we? That's probably about right.
Yeah, that's right.
It was good.
So
Was there an obligatory photo taken?
Headwear going on today, guys.
Absolutely. I need a haircut. It's all over the place at the moment, you can see.
Right.
So this is keeping it all in check.
So your guys are getting a good bashing here this morning then, Norman.
I think we are. It's disgraceful. Well, not disgraceful, but I was talking to Chris just then, David, about the team selections.
Yeah.
Would you ever pick a test side with only 4 bowlers?
Well, when you had McGrath and Warne as 2 of those 4, you can get away with it. Or you're playing on a wicket where the seam bowlers aren't going to take any wickets. The way the match. If you've got 2 quality spinners, or they've got 3, but 2. If you take Ashwin and Jadeja, why do you need any seam bowling? Because they're going to knock people over left, right, and centre. So. I think you just have seam bowling because that's the way that people do it. And I would have to say it's not an absolute minefield. That Jadeja is really good at, and the TV coverage is such, Norman, that you can actually look at the seam position, because the seam position has to, if it's going to spin, the seam's got to be pointing at 10 o'clock. If it goes round and if it lands on a non-seam part of the ball, it just goes straight on. So that ball that he bowled Smith with was never ever going to land on the seam. It was just going to land on a shiny bit or smooth bit and then just go straight through him.
So the Labuschagne.
What Jadeja does is that he bowls his overs so quickly that actually the batsman can't really settle. So the next ball is on him before he even realises. So
that's my tactic actually. When I bowl, David, I tend to go through him over so quickly. I give no time for the batter to settle.
I tried to do that, but they had to get it back from the boundary, which tends to delay the over. So.
What I thought, Grav, was that they've probably seen they've probably made a judgment on the wicket been really hard to bat on. They've probably thought that 2 spinners and Labuschagne or Smith might be able to do a job in taking 20 wickets. They've probably put a premium on having guys that can score runs. But that's obviously the hardest thing to do out there. So if you pick an extra, I imagine if Cam Green was fit, then Boland would go, and they would just have Cummings and Green and Link from the batting.
That's why the all-rounder is such a vital vital person. And Cam Green balances Australia's team.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't explain to me why they picked 4 bowlers when India on their home track have picked 5.
Yeah, well, I think they can do that because Jadeja and Ashwin are, they're proper batters. They can bat 7 and 8 with justification.
Yeah.
True, and Axel Patel can bat too, by the way. He can.
Yeah, Cummings. Though I think Cummings could bat. He's just a bit too high, particularly on a wicket like this. And they've just come out of playing white ball cricket for about 6 months. So now they're facing a wicket actually, this I would have to say that this is a better wicket than the SCG. The SCG
or the Gabba.
Yeah, they're all turning all over the place in Australia.
It's actually hypocritical, isn't it, when we were belting, looking at the photos and looking at the pitch and carrying on, trying to undermine what was going on, when in fact we were rated virtually poor on our test wickets by the ICC.
Well, the best wicket assessment, or worst, was the first test against Pakistan, where it was condemned, particularly by the Pakistanis, by Razin Raja, as being this is the worst wicket in the whole of Christendom. And in fact, actually, it produced the best test match. So it's actually more about how.
That's only because England forced it to be a good test match, didn't they?
Yeah.
So let's be honest, that was a fantastic test match. Take that up.
That, people can condemn wickets because they're too flat, but if you play in a manner that actually will force a result, which is what, and England are quite prepared. I think since the last time I spoke to you, I met up with Robert Key in the UAE and had breakfast. And he was very enlightening, Norman, I must admit. He just thinks that I think Ben Duckett is actually the archetypal person of the way that England now play. Ben Duckett, who I've known since he's under 15, he's a rackets player, so he basically plays horizontal shots all the time.
Yeah,
and he's had the whole of his career people telling him you can't do this, you can't do that, and whatever. He's now playing in a team where they just say, just go and play. We've selected because you are different. Because we now got a very tall opening batsman in terms of Crawley, who is a very vertical player. We want you to be horizontal. And that causes lots of problems for bowlers. So, but it was more the attitude of just go and express your skills. And he did admit, actually, he's never seen Brendan McCullum coach anybody. He just creates the environment, as the Stokes do, to go out and express your skills. He did say they're in a very privileged position, not privileged because they've earned the right, but actually because they're financially secure, that if it doesn't work out, they just walk away from it. So,
yeah.
Oh look, I shouldn't get excited about a series which is still happening some 4 months away, but Australia versus England Ashes, I'm extremely excited about that, as I am this series, the so-called BGT, the Border Gavaskar Trophy. But I think that England's going to give us one hell of a shellacking unless we really work out what team we're going to select, because the fact that we had 4 bowlers in the last match in Sydney, 4 bowlers in this match, they're going to not do that again, I can assure you.
Well, without going over our ground, I'm sure Chris was saying the same thing. Green balances the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same with England. When Ben Stokes, all right, he's not bowling a lot, but he threatens to bowl. That balances the whole team virtually. So there are very, very few teams can get away with playing 4 bowlers unless they have real international bowlers. And you look at the attacks around the country, around the world, there are very few like that anymore. So,
but then why didn't Australia pick an all-rounder for the match to replace Green? We have all-rounders.
Have you got any?
I don't want to really depress your day, but I would have to say, after the current generation of Australian players who are world class, I have not seen anybody who's going to replace them. Literally anybody.
Well, they're all going to go at a similar time, aren't they? Because Warner and Khawaja are both 36, so they've not got loads of years left. You've got Stark, who I know he's a bit younger, but doesn't look like he's got loads of years left. Lyon is 34. Smith is early 30s. You've probably got half a team retiring in the next 2 or 3 years. You've got to find 2 opening bats.
But the worry that you look at the I know that Norman doesn't like it, the Big Bash or any of this, the T20 stuff, Norman. But I looked at the under-19 team. All right, they drew the series. They won this morning, which is great. But there's nobody who's like sort of standing up thinking, well, these guys are fantastic. And actually, very few of your under-19 players progress to play in the senior team. Where if you look at our lot, I can name you 30 players who would be knocking on the door.
I mean, Harry Brook should best
I
example.
wasn't trying to be clever with Harry Brook, but Harry Brook is a special talent.
Well, you talked about him some time ago before we knew who he was, and you brought him to our attention.
Did you see what he did yesterday in the warm-up? He got 90 odd or 40, 50 balls. We hit 5 6s and over. He hit 30 and over.
Todd Murphy's just taken his first wicket for Australia. He's just gotten KL Rahul for 20. Mind you, they're already 76, and Robert Sharma's on 55. So Todd Murphy has just taken a caught and bowled, looks like, to dismiss, which is a good thing for the young lad. He's only 22.
Well, he's never taken 5 wickets in an innings. First class. But that's not a problem, because the amount of first class cricket this time of year for Australia doesn't exist. One stage.
I know, but you can identify talent though, David. Even if they don't take 5, you can identify talent though.
Yeah, and I think he's a good bowler, but he bowls in the right sort of speed. He's aggressive when he's bowling, which I think is good. But even the first few overs he bowled, he didn't get one ball off the straight virtually. So,
I think the interesting series will be. I think England will win over here against the Aussies. The interesting series will be next winter in India, because I feel that the way to beat India and with the pitches the way they are, and I think that they will obviously favour the home side, but they won't have experienced sides going out trying to score 5, 6, 7 and over against spinners. The reason why sometimes games India are so good is because sides will bat for a day but have only scored 200 runs, so they've actually not progressed the game. If England can bat for a day, they're going to have 450, 400, which all of a sudden in India is a massive. You're winning games scoring 400 in the first innings, whereas Jadeja and Ashwin historically have bowled a lot of overs, taken wickets but bowled at 1 or 2 and over, and then the game hasn't really gone anywhere. So that'll be interesting to see the dynamic of that.
Well, the only time we did, Chris, is that when Peterson played what was an extraordinary innings at Mumbai on a dust bowl, basically. And he just kept hitting Ashwin over extra cover. So they'll play the same way because I think that Australia do well in England. Their attack and their batting lineup is suited to play in England, not necessarily in India. It seems to me that I haven't watched every single ball, but their only option to play spin is reverse sweeping. Well, that is not going to that's not going to succeed all the time. And there's been
you can't really go anywhere either. Like Carey I saw he hit 1-4 of Ashwin or Jadeja, and they just put a man out. Yeah. And then every ball he's reverse sweeping, and he's getting 1 run every 2 times he does it. So it seems like a lot of risk for a single.
Well, you can hit it down the ground.
Yeah.
And just keep rotating strike that way. It's just.
Well, Ashwin. By the way, Ashwin's just gone in at first drop. It's about. So he's not watchman, but he has scored 3,000 Test runs and 5 centuries. So he's not really a true night watchman.
Well, they just made passing reference to it, Norman, about the increased rivalry of off spinners bowling to other off spinners.
True.
And the fact that you never get out to the bloke who bowls the same as you do in the opposition. Because that puts more pressure on you.
There's 1 over remaining. India are 1 for 76 with Rohit Sharma not out 55. This looks pretty much a hands down good day for India. What do you think of this series? What do you think is going to take place? Do you think Australia's going to get anywhere in this series, or India going to not whitewash, but perhaps 2-1 or 3-1? What do you think?
It'd be interesting to see how people play, Norman, because in past history with India is that they play on a wicket that does something. They go 1-0 up, and the next wickets are as flat as they possibly can be.
Right.
And that past history, I can remember Graham Gooch came and stayed with us a couple of weeks ago, and he said that was what normally happens. They just go flat, flat, flat.
Well, we're going to Delhi next, which is generally a bit more of a batter's paradise. Ahmedabad Ahmedabad's fairly new to Test cricket, but Dharmashala's is probably a spinner's wicket as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what takes place. But what are your predictions?
How the game goes?
Is there a day-night? Is there a day-night match?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. Not that I can't recall anything. I know that you guys have got a first Test match coming up next week on the 16th, which is the day-night, haven't you? Have you seen that?
In New Zealand? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the first Test match was a day-nighter and Mount Maunganui on the 16th of February. It's day-night. And the second Test is in Wellington the week after 24th.
And one with a pink ball. But they scrapped that as well. So.
It'll be pink ball.
I just don't think you need to have day-night. I don't think you need to have day-night Test matches in certain parts of the world. You don't need them in England at all.
In New Zealand either, really.
No, don't need New Zealand. I think Australia it works, but I don't think you need them in India. Really, I understand why they look at it, but you don't need them in this country. Test matches go 5 days, and crowds are generally always pretty good. And
there's no day-night Test matches in this series.
It gets
Australian series, there's none.
Yeah,
but you have. Well, I don't recall a day-night Test match in New Zealand, to be honest with you.
No.
Do you?
No.
There must be a first.
It's certainly gone. When I went to the last time I went to New Zealand, or the only time I went to New Zealand, it was like a sporting fest, Norman, that you could actually watch cricket by day and Super 12s rugby by night. So,
wow.
So, like at Wellington, you watched the main cricket ground, and then went off to the rugby ground to watch the Hurricanes play. So it was a fantastic sporting occasion.
Certainly would have been. So there's Ashwin's just facing the last two balls of Lions last over the day, and Rowett's home was 56, and they won for 77. So they're virtually 100 behind, with only losing one wicket. It's a damn good start to a Test series. What do you think of Virat Kohli? Is he back to his best? Are you impressed with the way he's batted lately?
Well, if it was done on the aggregate of runs, Gill must consider himself to be a very unlucky cricketer because he just keeps getting 100 every time he goes to the crease. So,
well, along with Shreyas Iyer's not on this side. They've brought out Sky.
Serious players now, haven't they? But which means the experienced one, including Rowett himself, have got to start getting some runs. So I can't go any farther than India when it gets to the World Cup if all their guys stay fit. Bumrah obviously is a key player for them in terms of bowling, but the batting lineup is it's like England.
I think we'll be very close. We're going to have Wood and Archer in there as well.
Yeah,
our side looks very, very strong as well. I think you probably just go in there just because of home advantage, but small grounds, flat wickets, you can't. Our batting lineup.
And also pressure, Chris, from your own spectators. India just have to have a few dips, and the competitions themselves don't lend themselves too often to the host.
Yeah,
just because of expectation more than anything else. But England will be up there.
So like Joe Root, I don't think has played a one day since the final of the last one yet. You got to pick Root, haven't you? Be interesting to see what they go with.
Well, how many more chances is Jason Roy going to get? This is like a rerun of Mike Gassing's Test career.
He did get 100 a couple of 1 days ago, didn't he? So
he's a bit of a walking wicket, man. So,
and he's also benefited the fact that Bairstow's not.
We're going to fair audience already, guys, because I've been going through the roof with views of late. Have you noticed? I've had 70,000, 80,000 for most of my things I put up have gone a bit crazy.
Okay.
Just quickly, so the best thing about the World Test Championship final being in England at the Oval means it precedes the Ashes series. So we're
Right.
going to have a nice old hit out in England in a proper match, let's call it, prior to the Ashes series. That's probably the biggest advantage for the Australian team. Would you agree?
So who's that between then? Is it Australia and India?
Australia, Australia pretty much through, and India, if they go well in this series, are through.
Right.
England certainly deserve to be there, but they haven't got the points early enough in the cycle.
That form is only in the last 6 months, isn't it? They've had
another 4 or 5 months you would have been in.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid the cycle is ending, I think, with this series and your series against New Zealand. That's it. And I think that's the time.
Well, it has to be planned for him, right? And actually, the Oval, I think, is the appropriate wicket in England to play that final. Because invariably it's a really good wicket. Whereas Southampton, I don't think was particularly well. It was a very English wicket, which is hard for someone like India to come and play. Perfect for New Zealand, but not necessarily perfect for India.
Isn't it amazing? Ravindra Jadeja, he's just been shown on screen now, smiling. He looks about 20. He's so fit. He had a pretty serious injury, and he's come back in his very first match for his country back, and he's taken 5 wickets. Pretty impressive.
Well, I think when he came back in the first class cricket, he took 14 wickets in the match. I think. So, Duncan Fletcher referred to him when he was coach of India as the most valuable player in the world.
Wow, that's a big statement, isn't it?
Because he could do everything. He could field, and their fielding wasn't fantastic. So he'd raised the bar there. His bowling is really dependable. It shows how one-day cricket has developed. That I always regard him as a one-day bowler, and he hardly plays one-day cricket now. Where the way that he bats, fields, and bowls would be a perfect T20 player, really.
And his presence as well, generally. What do you think of him, Chris?
So I had line cuts out there, so I wasn't.
Jadeja,
yeah, he's just I mean, I guess in certain conditions in Test cricket, he's fantastic. But I think people underestimate his batting, don't they? I think that he's got two first-class triple hundreds. I think he averages over 40 in Test cricket. And I think he showed his worth in England a bit the last couple of series he's played. He's actually gone out and scored some important runs down the order. But I mean, he must be. You'd have a case for him being the best fielder in the world as well, wouldn't you? I think you could have 3 or 4 in there, but he would certainly be in the conversation.
He reminds me of, and this might sound silly, but the way Melvin Ali plays, he's not unlike Melvin Ali, is he? Really, he can
hits the ball really hard. I think. Yeah, you're right. It's just I think Jadeja's bowling is very consistent. It doesn't. Sometimes if the wicket doesn't do it, he just needs to spin the odd ball and go on the outside of the back. Once he does that, then he's a real threat.
That's a bit like Kumble, wasn't it? Kumble wasn't a big spinner. Got a lot of his wickets with the straight on or the googly, and then the odd leggy. But I reckon a lot of his wickets would have been through the straight on ball.
Yeah. Well, Richard Blakey speaks very highly of Anil Kumble.
Well, I mean, 611 wickets or whatever would suggest that he could bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, do you think Ashwin's in the same league as Kumble?
Stats wise, he would have to be, right?
You think
Kumble, I think people try to sort of like play him like an off spinner because as Chris said, same as Rashid, same as the young kid who's now playing for England, Rayad Ahmed. You need to play him as an off spinner because his most dangerous ball is the googly. And with a white ball, it's very difficult to read. So, but it's Rayhan's a very confident young lad, and he's doing really well. And he just gives them. And I would have to say that Stokes managed him really well in the Test match he played. He protected him and then unleashed him at the right time in the match, really. So he'd have a bit of a free bowl But, no, it's
So,
good.
do you think? Forget the World Test Championship cycle for a moment. Say Australia beat India at the Oval, which you'd think. Well, I'm not saying it's going to happen. India could well win that. Do you think the Ashes series is the true test to who's number one in the world?
I wouldn't say that because I think India have got more weapons than most. What I think will happen is that I think that Australia will be well prepared if they get to the final. They're playing a high-class opposition before they play England. Whereas England are playing 2 tests against New Zealand and then 2 tests against Ireland, and that's their preparation.
Yeah.
I think the hardest place to win is in India. I think Warner said in an interview, and it probably got misconstrued, that I think the pinnacle of Test cricket is the Ashes. I think that you want to win the Ashes more, but I think the hardest place to win is in India. And I don't think any England cricketer, like England haven't lost a Test series at home for 22 years now. They've won one Test. I think 2001 was the last time England lost. I think Australia have drawn a series here. I think the last time we lost a series was 2001. So I think the series they want to win is against the Aussies, but I think it's the hardest place to win is in India.
Yeah, I'd agree with Chris. I think the Ashes are historical bragging rights, massive history attached to it. Whereas I think if it was a test of cricketing skill, India is the place. I think.
I would agree with that. It's a pity Pakistan didn't live up to expectations.
I think the Dravid-Laxman Test match, when they reversed the nearly innings defeat to a crushing victory, is one of the best Test matches ever.
Oh, there's no doubt. Australia had them done and dusted, and they turned it around, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was a follow-on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They followed on. Peter Willey was the umpire, and they said they had to get out, had to break through between those two. And I think the wicketkeeper was the next wicket, and then just a shed load of bowlers. And Pete Willey, being him, liked to get paid the maximum for half work, so he could see himself getting on the plane and going home. And the next day, they didn't lose a wicket.
Was it Laxman and Laxman got 281, didn't he?
And he was hitting Warne when he bowled round the wicket with a straight bat, not sweeping, round the wicket over mid wicket with a straight bat. That is an incredible shot to be able to do that.
I'm very happy today because we actually, I found out yesterday with a friend, we found out about the Janatul Shamona. Remember Janatul Shamona? I think the Bangladesh girl that came out here, who's 16 when she played Bangladesh, has actually made the ACT team. So that means one step from playing for Australia.
That's good.
So having played for Bangladesh at 16, she could well play for Australia in the next few years. That's rather exciting, isn't it?
That's good. Very good.
Did you see Gary Balance join a fairly elite list?
It is a bit like a Gary Balance story.
This week, didn't he? Test. I think they said his last Test 100 was against Shiv Chanderpaul, and his most recent one was against Chanderpaul Jr. So he's played against both Chanderpauls in Test cricket.
Yeah, he's a little legend. The
unbelievable period of time, Chris, with Braithwaite being the only person who scored 100 for the West Indies.
Opening the batting, yeah.
It's 10 years. It's 10 years or something ridiculous.
I saw that. 2013, last time an opening bat, not called Braithwaite, scored 100 for the West Indies.
Yeah.
And a double century to boot as well.
But very boring. It's sort of Test cricket.
Gary Balance? What was he that bad, or was he just not given?
Got found out against the quicker bowling, didn't he?
Yeah. And he lived life to the full, Norman, I think. He would have fitted in well. One of the more entertaining clips on YouTube is the little bits that refer to Kerry O'Keefe. He is a very funny bloke. So.
Oh, very funny. Very much so. All right, so this match is, they've said the first session was Australia's favour and the last two sessions were India's favour. Would that be a fair assessment of the day's play?
I wouldn't even give the first one to Australia. Actually,
Yeah,
I would
I
just
wouldn't
say
give it to either.
even Stevens and the spinners were beginning to, but I think Sharma knows that he's got to get some runs. Yeah, if India bat the day, Norman, then it's probably done and dusted by then. So
Yeah.
Oh, I think India will
Australia
score
got to bowl them
200.
out by the end of tomorrow and then bat like geniuses. But India know that they're having to bat last, and it just doesn't look a wicket that's suddenly going to, the odd ball's gone through the top a little bit spinning, but it's not every single ball.
No, pitch seems all right. To be fair, I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything terrible with the wicket.
No, the pitch is not terrible at all. Okay, so Australia got our summary really is Australia got the test team wrong. They had 4 bowlers and they probably needed a 5th bowler. Heads sacking or dropping.
I can't believe they've left Head out. I thought he was injured. I can't believe they've left Head out, Grav, on for tactical reasons.
Tactical reasons? Why?
Because they don't think he can bat in India.
They didn't want another left-hander.
Well, they don't think he can get runs in the subcontinent, and yet they go and pick Hanscom and Renshaw. Who, like, how I can, but why on earth is Renshaw playing? You don't want to pick a lefty, but he's been one of your best players, and you stick Renshaw in, who has hardly played and is a left-hander as well. I'd be fuming if I was Head. He literally won you the game in the Gabba when he got 90 odd against that attack.
Yeah.
He scored loads of runs. He's finally kind of worked out how to bat at that level, and they go and say, like I said to Norman Grav before he came on, if it was like an England situation where Bairstow comes back in and someone like Duckett gets left out, you can kind of justify that because you've got a bloke who has, scored 11 Test hundreds or whatever. But to be dropped when you're in form for a guy that's not scored a bean and then gets a golden as a left-hander, surely he must be absolutely foaming Head. Surely he'd be steaming.
So if Australia gets smacked in this test, do they rush Head back into the test team?
Yeah, because he can bowl as well. But I don't know how you can, because people mature or come into different times, don't you? It's like saying Steve Orr, we would have dropped you after 25 innings because you haven't got 100 yet. People work out how to bat after different periods or different times in Test cricket, and you can't just. You've got to, if he's in form for a team that haven't got loads of runs in that middle order anyway, you can't bring. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. I thought it was injured. I didn't even know he had been dropped tactically.
But to drop, in my period of time of making the decisions, Norman, to drop a batsman after one test is basically saying you made a mistake.
Yeah.
So what are you suggesting? They won't put Ed back in because they'll give the other guys a go?
Well, Renshaw's done, I think, okay in domestic cricket, but I agree with Chris. Head. Well, I would have to say that wicket at the Gabba wasn't a wicket, Norman. It was a meadow, basically.
I'm rather smug because I've been bagging Head for some time, even when he's been going well. And the fact that he was dropped, a lot of my Indian subscribers have been going nuts, going, "Oh my God, Norman will be happy," because I have been bagging Head.
He's the one. I don't think he's that great, but I think he's done well. You have to tip your hat off. It's the hardest thing I think in Test cricket to do is score runs, and he's done that. But I tell you what,
conditions, Chris, which were challenging. So he played in a manner that took the game away from the opposition. Whereas
all I'll say is that Australia have to hope that Labuschagne and Smith turn up in England this year, because Anderson, Broad, Robinson and Archer are going to be licking their lips at Warner and Khawaja, and then that middle order. Like if Smith and Labuschagne don't score runs, it could be because England have got a horrible batting is one thing, but we've got 10 bowlers that could easily bowl in. Who do you pick in that first test for England? You've got Anderson and Robinson, absolutely guaranteed, like 100%. Those two play. And then you've got to pick. So Stokes plays. They then will have the spinner probably at Leach. So if you have one more seam, you've got to pick one from Wood, Broad, Wokes, Curran, Stone, Potts, Overton. You've probably got 8 blokes that could easily come in. And Sam Curran isn't even being talked about. And yet he's played a bit of Test cricket. They want to play Broad. They want to play Wood.
Well, so by what you're saying, you should win against Australia easily then?
I imagine they'll rotate. Archer and Wood will probably get rotated around a little bit. And then but Anderson and Robinson are, well, I think Robinson's in English conditions, especially, are arguably the best in the world. I think that he's very good. Anderson is still Jimmy Anderson. And then it's
Hazelwood, if he's fit, is quite close to Robinson in terms of how he bowls. Just hit the seam.
Yeah. What England should do is just put flat wickets out, because you negate the Australia seamers are typically seam bowlers, if that makes sense, whereas our bowlers are a bit more swing bowlers, especially Anderson. So if you put out flat wickets and just say to the Aussies, well, we're negating your quality of seamers, and we'll chase down whatever you set us. We'll just get if you set us 400, we'll get 400. We've done it. We did it last year against as good a bowling attacks. And the last thing you can let the Aussies do is roll you for 150 on a green top. And if it swings, benefits us. If it doesn't, then we're going to score it twice the run rate you are, and would back us to bowl you out as well.
Yeah,
you're talking with great certainty that you're going to win the Ashes.
I think we'll be favourites. I think that Australia won't know.
Chris is right. If the openers get blown away, I think Khawaja might do okay. Warner will just be a walking wicket.
Yeah.
He's got
that adds to selection, because Broad has had the wood over Warner for 10 years in Test series, and yet Broad is probably the one that gets left out. But I don't know how. Well, I don't know how
Australia's ranked number 1 Test team at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And they're going in the World Test Championship as number 1. How can England be favourites? Although I don't deny that they've got a great side.
It's only the Test Championship is over a set period.
I get that.
Didn't turn up for the first part of it, but if you were just looking at the form of all nations in the second half, forget whether you participate in the World Championship.
Would you prefer England to go in as underdogs?
No,
I think the current environment that they're playing in is such that. Before I would have said that, because I think that a lot of pressure comes from within the dressing room or outside. The environment these two guys have created is unique, because they're just going, who would possibly cancel the last day of a practice match? Not even Australia would do this and say, actually, we've got enough out of this. Let's go and play golf, which they did in the UAE.
To swing it back round, Norman, if England played Australia tomorrow, you would say that you'd fancy Australia to beat England.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what you did. You said, how can we talk about England going as favourites or as number 1 in the world?
He's hanging on,
based on position,
clinging on.
It'll be tough.
England have got a pound for pound better side, but Australia, by way of rankings, is higher. You have to reason.
But we've had a massive change in. You've had change in. I think England will get found out at some point. We're probably one Test match this summer, or in India next year. We're going to get rolled because we're going to go out and just try and whack it, and you can't. It'll be harder to do that in India because I think it's harder to hit quality spinners on spinning wickets. But I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just been a massive mindset shift in Australia. I might be ranked number 1 in the world. It's like the Test match batting rankings or tennis rankings. I think Smith was number 1 in the world, and he didn't play Test cricket for a year. Doesn't mean he's the best player in the world at the time, but the rankings suggest.
I accept that. But okay, what is particularly important for Australia, having this series against India, the World Test Championship, and the new guys. If we can somehow miraculously do well in this period, we can hold our head up high. But we really should be exposed. You've got 5 Test matches in the Ashes, almost on top of each other, haven't you? Have you seen the dates?
Yeah, they're July to. It's usually late summer here, isn't it? So.
Well, it's actually in June because.
Yeah, it's June to July because the 100 ball game's got to start in August.
So you guys do.
Normally, all the speculation and all the form and however people play, will be decided on the first day or the first session, such as the way that sport is. And if the Australian quartet of seamers are fit, because they're the ones who are going to decide, the seamers on both sides, with the greatest respect to Lyon and to Leach, if they are the deciding factors, there's something gone seriously wrong with the game. So it'll be one, and they're all high quality bowlers. It'd be just interesting to see who's fit, because Stark, I think, is a really odd bowler to assess, because sometimes he bowls dreadfully. He's not doesn't necessarily swing it around corners as a conventional left arm over, but he obviously bowls with pace, deadly at the end of an innings, but he can go for a few to start with. So, and I think they're quite clever, England, in terms of trying to get left-handed, right-handed combinations all the way through.
Oh, look, you guys have got. I mean, the only game that I've got any certainty about throughout the Ashes period is when the SCG11 play the MCC that we're going to win. That I've got great certainty about. But other than that,
We didn't win last time.
Where's the game anyway?
It's at Bromsbury, I think.
Bromsbury, where's
I'm
that?
expecting you to be there.
It's Middlesex League. I think I'm going to try and I'm going to ask to. I certainly should be playing. I'm going to ask to captain it again, hopefully. So, what to say?
So, David, can you bring your selection hat on that day, and maybe I might be in the over whatever age group. I might have a chance somewhere. Maybe the Barbarians, they're playing currently in Barbados.
Right.
You'll see true form, of course, that day.
Definitely on form.
There will be rivalry. Chris will be bowled at by me.
Yeah.
I didn't say bowled out, but bowled at.
Yeah.
I'll be hanging my boots up if that goes wrong.
I've actually only seen Chris play one shot, and he dumped it in the pavilion at Lord's. So.
Yeah. That was
right. How many runs did you get against us last time we played this, Chris?
I think I got 25, batting at 5 or 4.
That isn't exactly a lot to write home about, is it? I mean, it's not.
I've never. This is the first time I've ever mentioned getting. I've never written home about that at all. All I said was that we beat you, which we did.
Well, that was 4 years ago, and this is 2023. Our team will be stacked with great players this time. I can assure you.
I'm sure it will be. So you'll be carrying the drinks, will you?
Well, I know. Wow, no way, Jose, I'm not carrying any drinks. Maybe before the game and after, but not during. Thinking of it. All right. So, are you?
So, where's all your Indian supporters then, Norman? They should be on this link.
Making comment. I haven't been watching the comments, by the way. In fact, I haven't been watching the comments at all. The Browns boys. I'm surprised when he's seen no head in the lineup. Aaron said, "Do you think Australia missing Agar?" I think so. Shubham Shukshal said, "Norman, how do you figure out the Khawaja and Warner dismissal? The same as when we're getting bashed here." Alani was saying that ODI should not be played.
Agar's planned.
ABCD says there's a lot of commentary going on here that I didn't see. Subway group of learning. Here we go. India lost only 2 test matches in the last 10 years. That's the dominance. Pretty fair comment.
I assume that's in India they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. They beat us in Australia. How did they go in England? When was the last time England played India at home?
Well, we chased 400 for 3 last summer against them.
Right.
That's a one-off test match, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, we drew the series 2-2 technically, and then they've not won.
Oh, that was that botched thing from the year before.
Well, because they all dived off. They all decided to cancel the series because the Indian players didn't want to get COVID the week before the IPL. Yeah. That's why they left. They all cried off because one of the coaches got COVID. Well, they could have played, but
how can you count a test match which happens a year after as a part of the series?
Well, I think both countries had a different opinion how the abandoned test match should be points should be awarded.
Yeah, I mean, look, we need to take a step back about this test match just quickly. We all agree that the pitch was not any concern and it was trumped up as a problem. That we forget what happened in Australia with the pitches there and some of the other locations around the world in the last year or two, which have been pretty atrocious. I mean, English pitches where they're more acceptable, aren't they, in the way they've been put together? Would you agree generally, or do they have their moments as well?
They have their moments, but the quality of the Australian pitches during the Big Bash, I know you don't watch it, Norman, was pretty average. They're spun a lot, and they're pretty slow, as the wickets in South Africa were the same. But actually,
it's funny how they're predicting that Rahul should be dropped for Gill, and I kind of agree with that. And then we've got a comment from a certain Richard Vernon. Norman predicts India will win 7-0 against Australia. I didn't say 7-0, and it can't be 7-0 when there's only 4 test matches. Richard, I'm afraid your dad needs to learn how to count. Chris?
I'm sure he'll be there for the game. It's next summer, and I've spoke to Munchie as well, and he said he'll try and get the game. He'll come over for the day, so could be a nice little group of people.
It should be televised actually on
and
television.
cheering the MCC
which
on.
one are you watching, Chris? Where are you watching?
Oh no, it's when the MCC play Norman's touring 11.
Oh right, no, I'll be there. Don't worry.
Yeah, so it could be a lot of
It's
people
not
cheering
Norman's
on.
touring. It's the SCG 11. Thank you very much. It's not Chris Vernon's team. It's the MCC. So
I didn't say it was my team.
But the SCG 11 realistically will be stacked. We'll hope to get people like Stuart McGill might even be playing.
Stuart McGill will be playing. Yeah, well, he can't get any of the
he has
Indian
played.
team, so.
Caddy's played at the nursery ground a few summers ago. We'll try and get a few other ring-ins to show you guys up.
So when are you coming to the UK then, Norman?
Well, I'm going to be there for the World Test Championship, which is June 7th at the Oval. So I'll be there around that date beforehand, and we'll stay there for the summer. I've got no other plans. I'm free as a bird.
Yeah, I will be at Lord's. Yeah, I depending on the day it starts, but I try and do 2 or 3 days for sure. Obviously, I can't do the Saturday because I'll be playing. But yeah, I'll definitely try and do day 1 and 2 for sure if it's Thursday, Friday.
Right, I'll see you in the Harris Gardens then.
Definitely, most definitely. Hopefully, the cricket. I think a couple of years ago against New Zealand, I think New Zealand batted first and were 200 for 2 or something, and I ended up going into the Harris Garden and at about midday, just before lunch, and I think at 4:30, I had to ask what the cricket score was. I didn't have a clue.
I refuse to read this comment. Can you read this comment, please?
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, it's a bit like Merv Hughes from the 12th Man. That skin tight Aussie shirt of his. Remember Billy Birmingham taking off?
Your father being very scathing of my general appearance. It's not acceptable on
your athletic physique.
You only see me through this little screen. You don't know how slender I actually. The screen just widens.
Okay, it's not complimentary TV.
Is that why it's called a widescreen TV?
Yeah.
Okay. Boom, boom. We've got some here. Brown boys. If Gross. Okay, they're all saying that India's going to score 400. Amlan Bure, he's been on before. Do you think Australia versus Sri Lanka will be playing the World Test Championship? No way. How can it be Sri Lanka? It's going to be India, for God's sake. Richard Vernon, I think, getting very close to being reported for his commentary.
I think you should block him.
That's
he's not even hiding his name. He's not some Banstead boy. He's himself. Okay, just quickly. Well, we've got a good hour. Well, just end by talking about Dave Warner's dismissal. That was pretty disgraceful, wasn't it?
Oh, it's one of those kind of balls as an opening bat that it's a good ball. You know, you talk about Seamers hitting the top of off. I think it's one of those balls that it's a challenging ball, but you're still disappointed you get out to it. Does that make sense? Like it's a ball that it just looked like it did him for pace, and I think he's just.
No, I think it went through. It didn't do anything as a other than the action. He just was beaten for pace, which Shami can do that. He can be quite slippery at times, but he'll be disappointed because he lined it up and just missed it. So,
but it is hilarious that we were all worried about the pitch being too spin friendly, and the first 2 wickets are forward from seamers.
Well, they're 2 for 2, so that's
exactly. Yeah, pretty ordinary. All right, so at this point, give me some predictions for the series. This current series.
I think that. What's the weather at this time of year in India? Is it rain or not?
Pretty hot.
Right. So it's just
and dry.
Okay, so it's a 5-test match series. Am I right in assuming that?
Four.
I would say India will win 3-0.
3-0.
The reason I say that, I just cannot see how Australia are going to take 20 wickets.
No, I tend to agree. Richard Vernon saying 7-0. Richard Ford is not going to 7-0 is not going to 4.
But I don't know how I don't see a test match being drawn, Grav. That's the problem.
You can't see it being a draw.
No, I can't see one of the games being a draw. I don't think that the pitches or the Australian team are good enough to last 5 days.
So any of those venues, Norman, are they suffer from smog at all? In terms
Well, they're
of
playing Delhi next, which
That's
is generally a bit. That's a batting pitch more, so I believe.
yeah, but are there grounds where they're going to lose time because of bad light?
I don't think so. Ahmedabad is that big brand new ground, which is sensational.
130,000 or however many years.
The only one that's probably in danger is Dharamshala. That's further north.
If you're saying predictions, Norman, I think the proviso has to be that the wickets are spin friendly, not flat. So if they are spin friendly, it could easily be 4-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you've got Lyon. Lyon is a top spin bowler for me. I think sort of it was a little bit like Shane Warne and McGill. McGill had much more side spin, whereas Warne was again a top spin bowler. Murphy will do okay, but Ashton Agar, I don't see him as a left-arm spinner bowling people out if it spins.
Right.
He's been in the test mix for what 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
And that match he played at where was it, Edgbaston?
I think Trent Bridge.
Trent
Bridge when he got 98.
And he scored 99.
Or 99.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. So I don't see whatever spin combination they have as a threat compared to the Indian spinners. They'll just be out bowled. So if they are responsive wickets, I think the Australian batsman can play the Indian spin on a flat wicket. I just don't think that they'll be the way they went about it in terms of their obsession with reverse sweeping will end in tears sooner or later. Yeah. And I can assure you, if it had been in a previous era, the umpires would have just given them out every time they missed it. Didn't matter if it was going to hit the stumps or not.
We've had a lot of viewers just join us, by the way. And I'll repeat who we've got on. I've got obviously Norman Kostek here from Eyes on Sports, as I'm now calling him, Broaden from cricket. We've got Chris Vernon, who's the MCC champion of champions. Let's see how good he goes this year. And David Graveney, really, we're saying former chief selector, but I'd say he's still heavily involved in the selection for the ECB, the English Cricket Board. So, would you say, David, you're still very active in your role?
No. I've been up all night watching the under-19s play against Australia in Brisbane.
So, David, who are you saying? Obviously, Harry Brook, you predicted. Who's your next bolter?
Well, it's just a couple of guys who are playing the under-19s. A guy called Jacob Bethel, who plays first in cricket for Warwickshire. Jacob Bethel. He actually originates from Barbados. He's and then the other guy who I think is a really highly rated player, and England needs to have another wicketkeeper playing in their team. They've got 5 or 6 as it is. So there's a guy called James Rue who now plays for Somerset. Is outstanding. But that Harry Brook, as I said to you before, I wasn't trying to be wise after the event or whatever. He just had something a wow factor, and I would have to say he's actually taking it on to another level. I think when he played in the Pakistan Premier League or wherever it is, as a young lad, he just sort of probably never been to Pakistan. Well, he wouldn't have been to Pakistan in his life. And the bowling of the wickets are pretty challenging there, and he got hundreds there, and he played in a manner that you would say, right, he's not going to be intimidated. He'll have dips, like everybody has dips in their form, but I think his reading of length, particularly to spin, I wouldn't fancy bowling at him because he picks up short balls so quickly and smashes them over mid wicket for sixes. He's just a very attacking player. He looks to attack every single ball, and if he can't, he defends it. So it's not the other way around. It doesn't start from I'm going to defend it and then try and score off it. His is definitely, and that would have been created by Stokes. He reminds me a lot of Root. So yeah, I think, and you only have to look at the scores of the Lions playing in Sri Lanka. They're going at 5 over, 6 and over. You know, everybody across the board of the national teams has got the bug, Norman. So
I certainly think going to India next year, we've got the best batting lineup in terms of playing spin we've had for a long time. You're going to have Root in there. Duckett's a very good player of spin. You're going to have Brook, Root, obviously, Stokes, Folkes as well. I imagine Folkes will play in India. I think you might not see Folkes in England just because they can keep with Pope or Bairstow. And then I think then Folkes probably misses out. But I think in India, you have to have your best keeper. And he's obviously a very good player of spin as well.
He got 100 in Sri Lanka in the first couple of games he played, didn't he?
Yeah, on debut. I'm pretty sure it's on debut.
And then got dropped. So
yeah.
the not embarrassment of riches, Norman. England have so many options, particularly in the white ball game. You know, once Bairstow comes, if Bairstow had been fit, it'd been interesting to see who would have played in that T20. Because they had so many options.
Well, you got the ODI World Cup this year, you mean, as well.
So
you'll definitely playing that.
Yeah, so they're
Well, we can look forward to in Australia. Glenn Maxwell getting back from injury.
It's a really, really good spot. I'm sure the Australians. I just see it as a bit of a swan song to some of the guys in that team. And my main concern for Australia is what happens after that, because I can't see anybody. But I'm sure there will be people who will do. But they just kept playing white ball cricket all the time.
Are you a bit frustrated that the 100 has pushed the Ashes series into a smaller corner?
Not really, because I wouldn't say I'm a student of the weather. I was when I was a captain, but as it stands now, that actually August is one of the wetter months in the UK.
Right.
So actually, to position it in June and July is actually, from a weather point of view, is actually not the worst thing.
Okay. All right, we've got Mr. Blue here. So they can't tackle straight balls and start crying about pitch funny, isn't it? It handed an orange covering. Okay. So basically, we're getting some fairly strong backlash about the way that we whinged about the pitch. And I do understand that, because the Australian media had the damn pitch in every single cover of every single newspaper.
Yeah, so everybody gets neurotic about the pitch. It's still two teams got to play on it. So, and they are, you know, this is not, you know, I've played on wet wickets, Norman, where the ball just, I can remember going as a night watchman against Kent when Derek Underwood was playing. And I got on a Saturday night and played a Sunday League game, rained, completed, bowled a ball, came back, sunshine or whatever. And the first ball I faced of that day hit me from Derek Underwood on the right shoulder, playing forward. We'd only lost one wicket, okay, and we were in our cars by 3:00. Off we go. He took 15 wickets in the match, and that was the end of it.
Amazing. All right, guys.
I've got to head off if that's right.
Okay, you guys have been fantastic. Highly rated show. Obviously, they've come to see you. So I've used the words featured David Graveney and Chris. So all of Chris's girlfriends came on.
Just send an email in during this test match when you want us back again.
I will.
Right.
All right, David.
I think we need to get Chris's dad on. You can't.
Yeah, well,
he was on the other day, I think.
No end. I can't accept that.
Those outrageous comments like that. Can't go away with that. Anyway, Chris, good to see you. And
you too, mate. Yeah, and we'll catch up soon for sure.
Well, I'll see you. I'll be talking to you in the next few days. But more importantly, I'll be there for.
We'll have a combination of New Zealand and India at one stage, won't we?
We'll definitely do one for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Norman.
Cool. Sounds
See you
good.
later. Cheers, Chris.
Chris,
Guys,
come
have
on
a look.
regularly if you can with David. Okay?
I'll try. Yeah, I've got. It's just fairly hectic at the moment. But yeah, I'll try my best.
I know you're still going to batting practice for the upcoming MCC matches.
Exactly. See you later.
All right.
Cheers.
See you, Chris.
Cheers.
Take care. I've got David still on. David, have you logged out?
I'm trying to.
All right. Thanks, guys. We have incredible numbers still watching. I'm very impressed. I'll just call out to we've had a fantastic episode here. Great numbers. It's been a great night. Great numbers indeed. In fact, we got needs to play good cricket. Yes, Australia. Look, we're all out for 177. Only really Smith and Labuschagne can hold their head up high. Then you of course had Hanscom. A bit of it, the rest of the team collapsed pretty badly. Today's taking 5 wickets. Ashwin taking 3. Sharmi and of course Siraj taking a wicket as well. Axel missed out, but the rest did very, very well. 177 is just not good enough. And of course, India are 1 for 77 in reply, with Rohit Sharma not at 56. And of course, Rahul got out for 20 and gave Todd Murphy his first test wicket, which is some positive positives for Australia. Todd Murphy on his debut at 22 took a wicket. But Australia need to select a better side, need to have 5 bowlers, not 4. Need to work out with every Travis head. Because I think my team today would have stuck with Warner as Khawaja, and he would have had Labuschagne, Smith. I probably would have stuck with Head. I would have had Agar on the side as well. That means both Hanscom and Renshaw would have not been included with the Carey, and then the rest of the bowling with giving Tom Murphy a berth with obviously Boland and Cummins with Lyon. That would have been my say. So we would have 5 bowlers, potentially 6. We would have Agar, Todd Murphy, and of course Agar, Todd Murphy, and of course Lyon with Boland and Cummins, and then had a potential of Head being used where necessary. Yeah, 7. It is definitely. We had an extra batsman. You're right, and we didn't get that many runs. Pretty awful, guys. Pratik Anand is right now. Those that are watching and haven't viewed, liked, and shared, and more importantly, subscribed. If you're watching now and you haven't subscribed, please go to the subscribe button and hit that, please. Well, that's true. Australia haven't really mastered the spinning wicket, have they? Whereas they flat Pakistani wickets, they were able to survive better. I can. Richard says you want to quick. Yes. I'll get Richard on. You just come on now. Yep. I'll just send the link. If I can get the link. Get Richard Vernon on here. Who was making some rather derogatory comments, I must say. But anyway, he's here, coming on now. Generally, the other Fox cricketers saying BCs have changed the pitch after Australia's batting. No, that's rubbish. I'm seeing Warner getting dropped. Yeah, good chance. Best of luck to Australia for the rest of the series. So I should play like India played last December, January, and February without any fear. That's a very good point. Australia were very hesitant in their batting, weren't they? We'll get Munchie on as well. I'm just getting some information. Okay, so Prakash, are you in India? No, I'm not. I'm still in Sydney. I guess a pitch had no demons. Well, they didn't have any true demons. No, Mr. Blueshot needs these 4 proper spinners. Nathan Lyons, they want to win at least true. Nathan Lyons, not enough. Hello,
Morning,
Richard.
Norman.
Well, it's not morning to me. It's like late evening
How are
here.
you?
Now, we've got some very strong viewerships here, and they're very keen to bash Australia at the moment. It was an atrocious day, really, for Australia. I spoke to your son and David about the selections. What was Australia doing playing full bowlers?
We spoke about this yesterday or day before yesterday, didn't we?
We did.
It looked like they were
they
going
did it
to
again.
pick 4 bowlers because you ran through the lineup. And I said it'd be madness. I can't. And one of the bowlers has played 5 first-class games, Norman.
Well,
Now,
he did take the first wicket.
He got a wicket as well. Great on him, but that is brave. But what David Graveney and Chris, of course, made the excellent comments that without an all-rounder, Australia can't balance their side. India have got a fantastic advantage in that Jadeja and Ashwin to a lesser extent is batting, but they balance their side because they're both really useful batsmen. Especially
Ashwin, not to a lesser extent. He scored 3,000 test runs and 5 centuries.
I wouldn't call him a true all-rounder. I think he's maybe a brilliant number 8. Probably the best in the world at number 8, isn't he? But Jadeja is a proper player, a really good all-round player. And Australia haven't got one at the moment. Even Cam Green, if he was available, do you think that they would have played him and left one of the seamers out? Because I doubt it. He's not that much of a frontline bowler, is he? He's not a big spell bowler. He bowls 8 or 9 in a day, doesn't he, normally?
Yeah, look, I just read a headline here. Australia sacrificed head for horses for courses, but the approach backfires. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the non-selection of head was the problem at all. We needed to have a 5th bowler, full stop. We needed to have, realistically, Agar, albeit not the best left-arm bowler in the world, should have been given the Guernsey because he was in the side last match. He's been touted as being an all-rounder, maybe not the future of all-rounders, but he'd be more appropriate to that because he could have bowled a decent amount of overs and batted quite well. It's beyond me.
Yeah, but Norman, you're clutching at straws. You've just been bowled out for 170. I'm not sure Agar would have been the major difference there. You got some problems in your batting, haven't you? In India, like every side who goes to India have got some problems in their batting. This isn't just an Australian thing. This is every side who go there have got a problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
Massively
Laboratory
Smith, aren't you?
Do you think it's just simply a matter we're just not good enough to? No one's mastered the Indian conditions other than India.
Yeah, I think exactly that. I think if that Australia side play the first Ashes test, they'll do fine. I'm not saying they'll win. I think England will win, but they won't be bowled out for 170 odd. I'll be very surprised. I think it's just a very, very difficult place to play against 2 fantastically good bowlers. I mean, crumbs. Jadeja and Ashwin in India are a proper handful, you know.
Jadeja, honestly, Jadeja to me was more of a handful than Ashwin.
Yeah. Well, in England, Ashwin didn't play. Ashwin did not play a test in England last time they were here over that double summer. Jadeja played, but he didn't get a lot of wickets. It's horses for courses in conditions, and it's forever been that way. Norman, of course, it's not unusual to pick players to play in certain conditions. I just think Australia haven't got the personnel at the moment to do it, and I think David Graveney made a good point, as he always does. That must be worrying to an Australian. He's not seen a lot coming through either, which is a worry, isn't it?
I mean, okay, I keep talking about this Jason Sanger, and I keep talking about even Curtis Patterson, both proven players at this level.
Sanger's not that young though, is he, Norman?
Oh, yes, he is. He's 22 or 20. He's
Oh,
22.
I thought he was a little bit older than that.
No, he's not. He was under 19 player, captain. Would have been 4 years ago now. He's probably 22, 23.
Yeah.
He's the same age as Todd Murphy, probably a year older than Todd Murphy.
Well, he's going to get a
Murphy.
go, isn't he? Because I've been listening to the whole show, and Chris made a point that you've got a few players who are pushing towards the end. We spoke about Stark 2 days ago, didn't we? I know he's not as old as others, but fast bowlers. He's got a few miles in those old legs.
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure he's got a lot left after maybe this Ashes and your next summer.
I've just been phone called by Nalakshi De Silva. How are you, Nalakshi? Okay. All right, I'll talk to you later, Nalakshi. I think I may have embarrassed her. She's probably not wanting to go on live public television. That's all right.
Eyes on sports, Norman. Very exciting times.
Well, I am branching out. I'm looking at. Well, I mean, soccer's an obvious one. It's a world sport. The rugby codes certainly are too. We're going to try this out, but more importantly, tennis. Aparna's running around following the tennis now, so she hopes to come on. She unfortunately had a bit of an accident earlier this year, and she's been not wanting to be seen publicly for about 4 or 5 weeks because she had nothing serious, but she just.
I'm sorry for that.
It's a long story. Anyway, so she'll be back on deck. So we very happily looking at more activity. I don't know where it's going to head, but we're going to give it a go because it seems to be a lot of the platforms now talk about sports. They usually use the Z letter because the S letter's basically taken up. So it's become a trend to do that. So I'll wait and see how it goes. But cricket's still the mainstay, of course. And we were talking about the June 7th World Test Championship at the Oval between Australia and India. Likely be India. I mean,
one of the comments earlier, Norman, reckons that one of the comments earlier, 45 minutes ago, was saying that if Sri Lanka beat New Zealand 2-0, then Australia, blah, blah, blah. And I answered the guy back, Sri Lanka couldn't beat a club side 2-0 in a test series. They are a terribly poor side at the moment. The best two sides are going to be competing in the final over the period of the competition. I think England should be there on current form, but that's not the way these things work. And rightly so. You have to take it over a period of time. Just because England have played well in the last 6 months or 8 months, that doesn't mean over 2 years they've been good. They were rubbish before that. One test win in 17 before. We've now won 9 out of 10. So,
it's wrong to say you can't. David and Chris both said that England are the top test team at the moment.
At this moment in time, but not in India. Not if we were playing in India, we wouldn't be, would we? So India are the best side. But India are the best side in India. India aren't maybe going to play so well outside of India. But that's, again, Norman, things haven't changed so much over the last 40 years at that, have they? It's playing at home's always been a big advantage, especially subcontinental conditions.
Is there anything wrong with that, though? Is there anything wrong with that?
No, it's not. It's the way it should be, provided, and again, I'm going to make myself unpopular, provided they keep the pitches fair to both sides. Look, there's nothing wrong with preparing a pitch that's going to turn. That's absolutely fine, but maybe not go through the surface after 1 hour of day one. Where it hasn't been prepared, it just completely destroys. That's a different thing.
But don't you think this particular pitch has not really shown too many demons at this stage?
Right. Chris plays at Seven Oaks in England, and they have 3 pretty decent spinners, and so they take the grass off it. They don't prepare a green wicket for the sides who come and play them. They prepare a wicket that's going to turn. That is perfectly acceptable that you prepare. Look, in England, we would put a few green pitches out, leave a bit more grass on because we've got the bowlers to exploit it. And that's not doctoring the pitch. That's just preparing a pitch that suits your bowling. That's a very different thing.
Okay, but
You know, so it's fine.
But this particular wicket that we're seeing here now,
Yeah, apparently it's fine, isn't it? It's fine.
it is fine. It's
Yeah.
the 2 medium paces got the first wickets.
And
I
then if
can't
it
think-
starts to really rag at the end of day 3 into day 4, that's fine as well, isn't it? What you don't
It's
want
just-
is exploding before lunch on day 1, as I think.
Jadasia knew what he was doing. He knew how to bowl his own wickets. He bowled a good line of length, had the arm ball, the natural variation, not unlike Ranganahera did the same thing for Sri Lanka on Sri Lanka pitch.
He was
Australia
just
haven't worked out. They've got Nathan Lyon, who's pretty good, but they don't bring through bowlers that work with natural variation. They don't understand that.
No, that's and to be fair, in Australia they haven't had to too much, have they? It's not it's spinning conditions aren't the main thing. They're not in England either, so that's why we don't really produce great spin bowlers here either. That's just the way it is. But that's the beauty of the game, isn't it?
It's a lame excuse, Richard, because they should be able to understand that you need to bring in bowlers of that type, and we should nurture them. We should get them to spend a lot of time in the subcontinent.
Yeah,
go on regular tours through the younger ages, get them to play in the Ranji Trophy or whatever their equivalent is, to get them exposed to the conditions. We have people go to play in the county leagues, like Smith is going before the Test series. We get people coming out to Australia to play domestically, like Ollie Pope, for example, came to Sydney. And so why don't we do that for him?
Alex Stewart famously became the player he was because he played out in Perth for two or three seasons. And that's why he's such a great back foot player. Scored so many runs, Stewart, playing mainly off the back foot, because he played in Perth. And Ben Folkes, Norman, went and played in Sri Lanka in their leagues. And look how good he is in subcontinent conditions.
Well, there's your answer. There's your answer. Not unlike soccer, a lot of top Australian soccer players play in the Premier League or the German leagues or the Italian leagues. They do the same thing. We need to start to consider that as a tactic. Australia thinks that we're the best location for cricket. Well, we're not when it comes to conditions which resemble India or England. So we need to be more akin to that. And that's our problem. We're relying on people playing on Sydney Australian pitches, which we know we're going to bat well on because we're suited to them. And they don't, like even the current crop, to argue Travis Head and perhaps to an extent Warner, have not given themselves, except for the IPL, haven't really been in those locations. So there's your answer. There's your nurturing. There's what future cricket should look like.
Having said that, Norman, how stupid are England to let Steve Smith come over and play 2 or 3 games of county cricket before the Ashes, just to get him into a nice bit of form and get used to conditions? We're stupid. I just do not understand how one of the counties would let him do that. They're not signing for the season; they're signing him for 3 games.
But why is that a bad thing, though? Really, honestly,
because he's going to bloody score 200 against us in every bloody match if we're not careful and win the Ashes. This is the biggest thing for us over here. It's the Ashes is. I don't know. It's for the Australians too. This is the pinnacle of their sport at cricket. I do not accept that winning World Cups and other is what they really want. You may know no different, Norman. You've spoken to a few of the players.
I would say the MCC game against the SCG will be the most important game.
But wouldn't they want to be winning the Ashes? Isn't that's one of the things?
Fancy bumping our game off the nursery ground to some stupid Middlesex or what are they called? What Texas is it? Middlesex or something?
MC, it's the nursery ground. Yeah, playing at Bronsbury. Chris said Bronsbury. I don't know the ground, but I'm sure it'd be nice.
Well, we know that Chris is in the net busily trying to get some sort of form before he faces me, and I understand so because it's going to be.
You understand the pressure you're going to be under that day, Norman, because David Graveney just said he'll be there. I'm going to be there. Munchie should make it up as well, and Munchie looks very much like you, Norman. He's got the similar baggy shirt like you these days. The years haven't been kind to Munchie either.
No, well, I mean, we'll see we may even drag Munchie into our team. You never know, we might need an extra player.
He can hardly run up anymore, let alone bowl a ball. He's got some terrible knee troubles. And to be fair to him, it really, really sore. His knees are really bad. So
Well, you've heard of armchairs and wheelchairs where you like rolling down get a bit of a raised platform and rolling down.
yeah.
No, well, they're going to be interesting because we're going to have a few ring-ins apparently. So there you go. And the MCC are playing on the SCG in less than 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, you're going to put some footage up of that. Are you playing, Norman?
Oh yeah, I'll be there. We've got a multicultural night. It's going to be a big day. But I'm actually planning on being in India. But I don't know. I really don't want to miss a match on Dharmashala. Do you think England will play next year on the subcontinent in India, and they'll play at Dharmashala, won't they? You'd think so.
I assume so. I assume they will. I don't know the booking the venues and the tour programs is done well in advance, isn't it? I would imagine they'll announce these things already where they're going to play. The venues are going to be played. I tell you what, though, when they're going to go and play. I didn't know they were playing in India next winter, but they will go for it. It'll be. Can I use the word on your channel? Shit or bust, Norman? I hope I can. I hope that's not offending anyone. But that's what they're going to do. They're going to do that this summer too. They're not going to stop playing this way of cricket, and they will. They will have a go. So they could be all out for 50.
But
having a go.
I mean, okay. What are your if you had a desire to see certain grounds in the world? What grounds would you want to see?
I'd like to go to Sydney Cricket Ground, purely because old, and that is an old-fashioned ground, and that's not. I'm not being rude about it by that. I think that's why I want to go there, because it's still got the pavilion, hasn't it? The old pavilion, and
You've got to come. You've got to come. You have to come.
Well,
when are you going to come? Yeah. Try again.
It's a long way. It's and I'm not
stop
getting
going to all those islands off England, would you?
Yeah. Well,
Greece,
yeah, but
Spain.
I've been to Cape Town. That's superb. I mean, that's just one of the most beautiful grounds in the world.
Where?
Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's just,
that's
just
yeah.
And I went.
Is it Newlands?
Newlands.
Yeah, that's the ground, isn't it?
Because it's in the shadow of Table Mountain, and it's just mountain is just it's just stunning to see it. It's just lovely. I've been to Kensington Oval in Barbados, not to see a game, but I was out there, so I had a look at the ground. But Lords, I mean, anyone who's watching, and you say you've got a few people watching now. When you go to Lords, it's almost a religious experience. I know that, again, that sounds like a stupid thing to say. It really has got an aura about it at Lords when you go to Lords. So that's the place to go if anyone's coming over to the.
You've not mentioned Dharmashala. That is with the backdrop of the Himalayas, not unlike Cape Town. That's pretty special. It's
pretty. Yeah, I've seen the pictures. It's you got snow-covered mountains in the background, haven't you? So, yeah,
very special indeed.
So you're going to try and get out there for this series, Norman? You're going to try and get to India?
Well, I would go tomorrow, but the property matters with my mother.
Yeah,
I've gone through probate. I'm sure they call it the same in England. Probate means courts have agreed.
Takes months.
I have to act on it, and that takes a couple of weeks to get through banks and paperwork and what have you. Then I'm free.
Yeah,
I'm going off.
Yeah.
So that's
eyes on sports from Mumbai or Chennai or somewhere.
Well, I'll definitely going to Delhi and Mumbai, but then I'll be ultimately going to Dharmashala and Ahmedabad. Then I've got to come back here because I'm consulting for about 6 weeks on a state election, and then I'll be back off again. I'll be the old time, and then straight June into July I'll be in England, following going to Royal Ascot, going to Wimbledon, going to cricket, playing cricket, Lords, Oval, the whole bit. Staying in one of my favourite hotels, the Savoy. A bit of luck.
Are you staying at Savoy? Crikey,
stayed
Norman.
4 years ago. I stayed with the boy.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get your shirt and tie out for that one. That's a bit posh, that.
I didn't. I only had a few days there, but it was good. And the was it the Royal Horses or what's it called? Or
Horse Guards Parade and
the hotel called the Royal Horses or the
Horse Guard.
something.
There's a lot of famous hotels sort of in
No, well,
London.
that's something with horses in it. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
That's another place.
Yeah.
Then I'll duck over to. Then I'll be there for. I'm going to be indefinitely there, and then ultimately for the World Cup in India. So it'll be full on. So I'll be doing plenty of that, and I want to go to Pakistan at some stage. I want to see cricket there, which I've missed out previously. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm itching to go. I'm sitting here waiting.
So I was listening earlier, Norman. Apparently, have you predicted 7-0? Did someone say on the messages earlier for this series?
Well, the only person who's been saying that is you. Even Adam Holyoke hasn't saying it with
Adam Holyoke reckons you said 7-0.
That was a few seasons ago. Yeah.
I can't see Australia getting anything out of this series, Norman. I'm sorry to say. I just
They could
implode.
They could implode, I'm afraid.
Well, this pitch, as you say, I assume Australia won the toss. I'm guessing they won the toss. And this is going to be one of the better pitches they're going to encounter, as you say, certainly on day one, because there's going to be a couple of games where they're going to lose the toss, and they're going to have to go in the dirt first and then bat second and fourth, or second and third if they're following on. And I just don't see. I know David said he thinks 3-0. I'm with Chris. I just can't see where the draw's coming. I can't see a draw. So and I can't see Aussies winning. I can't see them getting.
Unless it's weather.
Where they're going to get 20 wickets, Norman. So Cameron Green is fit, say for the second test. He comes in instead of Hanscom. Does it strengthen the side? It weakens the batting, surely. And the batting's the problem.
Give another bowler though. They're going to need that.
Yeah, but that's the problem, isn't it?
Well, Hazelwood and Stark, I don't know whether that will do much for them. I think Paul Scott Boland's is not going to be very effective. This is not the MCG for him, I'll tell you.
They've got one in the squad, though. They've got a quick guy in the squad, haven't they? He's a young, raw, quick guy.
Lance Morris. I met his dad and his brother, and they've all raved about him. He's got the goods, and he's like our Mark Wood, to be honest with you. I would argue.
Well, you may as well try and throw him and get a bit of pace, because the sort of the 86, 88 miles an hour isn't going to cut it in India. You need that point of difference, don't you? To try and bowl out.
With an Ashes series coming up too, he can be very useful in England. The next
it's going to be some quick bowling coming down your way.
The ball as
Norman.
Well. What?
It'd be a Dukes ball, wouldn't it? Here, there'll be Dukes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty upset with you showing.
Chris is quite quick, Norman. You know that Chris is quite quick. You've seen him before, haven't you? He's quite lively. He can get it down there when he bowls.
Chris Vernon.
So you might have to put your helmet on when you face him.
If he bowls to me anything short, it's going. You haven't seen the videos of me cutting and pulling balls at will, have you? It's my bread and butter. So we're going to see the full.
He's going to swing it, Norman. He's a swing bowler.
Yeah, but he's more of a batter than a bowler, isn't he? Chris is.
Well,
I
think he's more of a batter than a bowler, though he's been opening the bowling in the Kent League. Has been,
I don't think he bowled against us.
The whole season.
I don't think he bowled against us last time.
No.
We'll wait and see.
He did. We'll wait and see. My line's going a bit iffy, Norman. So I sign off. I've got a few problems with my connection, I think. But I shall hopefully chat to you again during the test.
Definitely. We've still got too many people
Thanks so much for having me on.
I can't believe it. All right. Thank you.
How many have you got watching? Cheers, fella. Have a great one. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, host of Eyes on Sports. We're back on. Lots of comments here. Still series is alive. You reckon today's is the game changer? He certainly is. Chundon reckons 4-0. I reckon 2. Third test is in Dharamshala, correct? Second test is in Delhi. First, of course, is here. And no, Paul. Robert Sharma, let's look, replaying now. 1 for 77. 100 runs beyond Australia, only losing 1 wicket after 24 overs. Robert Sharma on 56 not out. Ashwin, there is a night watchman. I looked like Robert Sharma was always way to 100. Or something dramatic happens. What a fantastic start by India. You have to give a lot of credit to them, I'd say. Very, very impressive indeed. So, okay, I've got 66 people on my. I'll go and get. So, all right, guys. I'm just. Sorry, guys, just off there for a while. Please watch for cricket latest tweet. What is that issue? Okay. The second test is in Delhi. The third test is in Dharamshala. The fourth is in Ahmedabad. And Australia certainly have not started well. Look at Lola, are you okay? Am I okay? I'm fine. Ask questions, guys. Tell us your thoughts.
Slow boil for sure. It's going to be very difficult for a couple of years until sort of.
The skills lost a bit of weight. Yes, Akash Chopra is starting a new video very soon. Interesting. Rohit's captaincy and his batting was good to watch. So, Terrace Aldrin, how are you? You're from the West Indies. It was a magnificent performance. Fantastic performance. Australia, yeah, Australia's a good team and is better. That's true. Terrace Aldrin has hit the nail on the head. I think Rohit Sharma was in fine form today. Despite Australia choosing to bat, it seems to me that it looks as though that's hugely in the favour of hugely in the favour of India. This whole almost day one stumps, they travel 100 runs, but there's no issue here. This is going to, I would predict, India will go to some 400 plus runs, and they'll make Australia bat, and then the game will be over. Australian team is a bit poorly selected, I'll have to say. Have 4 bowlers. It just embarrasses me that we would pick 4 bowlers. Why would we pick first? Good on this young bloke getting his first this week. That's not a bad way for it. Only redeeming factor of today's match was the first wicket that he took, to be honest. So Murphy, good young kid. Let's hope that he can continue in that vein. Australia's future could well be. We'll have to wait and see what's the future he's going to provide us. Certainly it was impressive enough on his day, but let's be fair. Why for Cox were crying so much? They're crying so much because, quite frankly, they haven't done that well. And Australia have overplayed their mark. They've picked 4 bowlers. They complain about the wicket when the wicket had nothing to do with the way they played. Australia have imploded somewhat today. 127. It was a fairly substandard total, and there's no doubt that it really is lacking in so many aspects. You can't pick a team with 4 bowlers to start with. If you're going to pick an all-rounder, leave him there. Agar should have been in there. Despite my misgivings about Travis Head, he probably should deserve to be in the team. Renshaw hasn't really performed yet. I'll give him a bit more of a go. We'll just see what happens in the next series, but I'm interested to see what actually happens. Why Travis Head was not being selected? He's not good in the subcontinent. That's the reason. That's a fair reason. India's day for sure. Yeah, it's quite an awful effort. So, Travis Head should have played. Travis Head should have been on the side, and it's a bit of a pity that he wasn't there. Really, bloody ordinary. Really, it's very disappointing to see the selections. George Bailey needs to have a good look at his selection policy. You don't go into a match with 4 bowlers in India. If you're going to bat more batters, thinking it's a compensate, some of them have to be all-rounders. India had 3 all-rounders: Ashwin, Jadeja, and obviously even Akshar Patel. They all could certainly bat. So, and bowl. Look, Ashwin's gone in first drop. Quite remarkable indeed. Any more questions, guys? Ask me questions. England will destroy Australia in the Ashes. Rowan Collins probably pretty close to right now. If Australia don't get their act together, they'll be in some deep trouble when it comes to that. I've got no doubt. We're going almost 2 hours here, guys. And would you guys definitely subscribe? If you're watching this, you need to. We'll meet Australia in the finals. We certainly will. The Ashes, the Oval will be an interesting kettle of fish for India. Will they be able to get there? It's going to be interesting to see what they do. You would think they would. Yeah, but Australia is, well, Warner went cheaply. Khawaja went cheaply. Warner's dismissal was atrocious. He was bowled neck and crop. Smith battled pretty hard, but still nowhere near good enough. And it was very frustrating that Australia lost the 4-0 series. Not a joke. It's not a joke. What's your prediction of India versus Australia tests now? I always said 3-1 India. It could well be 4-0 now, the way it's going. Stats analysis. Ashwin becomes the second fastest to 450 wickets. There you go. That's pretty impressive. That is impressive, isn't it? Second fastest to 450. Who was the fastest? So 170 Australia's first innings total in Nagpur. Only twice Australia folded for lower first innings total in Asia after opting to bat first. 80 all out against Pakistan and 56, 120 all out against Sri Lanka in 2004. 2005 was the last instance of Australia being bundled out for less than 200. 89 matches needed by Ashwin to complete 450. Second fastest behind Murali, who took 80. So that says a fair bit. It's a good stat there. I like that. I'll put that up. All right. Safi Bagara, instead of doing and focusing on pitch, surely should be focusing on their batting and more their selections. Okay, so I'm just going to check on one last thing. I'm getting told off at the moment. So Ashwin's stats, it's very important to look at those stats. So Siraj. Why Trevor Head is not playing? Travis is not playing because he was deemed to be not good enough on the subcontinent, and I don't disagree with that. Okay, I do not disagree with that at all. That was a fair assumption, but they need to have a person who can play the role of of all rounder, and that's what they lacked. Looking at the state, where is it? Yeah, there's some good stats on this post up there. All right, we'll see how we go. So, Shaman Fox Cricket, why? Well, they were bagging Australia, weren't they? Well, I don't know whether you can bag them for that purpose. And they should be bagging Australia, not bagging in. India's pitches were fine. There was no issue with the pitch at all. It's quite embarrassing that we would be knocking our pitch, I'll tell you that much. It's just the last 60 minutes. All right. So I want you to be able to make sure you view, like, and share. Because look, it's that big because so we got BG sent. Have you not come to? No, Raj put classes haven't come in there. No. Well, some people talking to them. That may well be true. That both PMs and prime ministers will be there. It's probably likely to be true. Nothing to worry. Australia can make a comeback at second innings. Quite world class players. Don't worry, Aussies will come back. Okay, we'll leave that as the final word. All right. Any last comments, guys? We've been on for almost 2 hours. Been an amazing day of cricket. If you haven't been watching. Yeah, Tom Murphy, you got to give him some credit. He took his first wicket today. Good on him. Okay, so I have a bad habit, Norman, always playing 9 games against in out. I should focus on the game. I tend to agree. All right, guys, just bear with me a minute. Oops. Wayne is still backing Howell even after. Well, you got to give him BGT. You got to give him a chance. I think you'll find that Rahul deserves to be there at this point, but Gill will certainly come back into play. Okay, don't make me think, guys. Big numbers, they're all faces, they'll go anywhere. What do you want to do? No, function. Okay. All right. Okay, this has been a long day, guys. Take a screenshot of my prediction. Where's your prediction? Quick, where's your prediction? Stark will be back after his injury, probably the third test. Prediction tomorrow. in the first session, any batting will collapse. I don't think that's going to, it's not going to happen. Okay, okay. Pressure environment, okay, we've got that there, okay. And you reckon it's going to be the case, do you? I don't think that's a fair appraisal, I think. If you're joining it, you must tell me whether that's a fair reaction. I think that's completely not going to happen. Again, with the, yes, I would agree with that. And the such thing as lifting the trophy, yes, I agree with that. Okay. I told you, Norman, Aussie batters didn't stand a chance of getting any points. You're right, Buckledale, you're right. Why Travis Head is not playing? It's a really big question. The bottom line, he's not good on subcontinent pitches, and I'm afraid that's why they gave Hanscom and both haven't done well either, so that's probably the reason. Pratik Ananda, I would say that's a good situation. I would agree with that. There's a good chance there'll be a century happening. All right. Every chance of that happening. Any more questions, guys? Been on the line for 2 hours now. Incredible numbers. If they can drop head, they can drop one at one. This is one of the best replies. Palash Gaikwad, that's probably one of the best comments of the day. If they can drop head, they can drop water. Very, very astute comment. I think it's a very, very astute comment, if I'm being honest. If they can drop head, they can drop water. I'm pretty much in agreement with that. You certainly can drop head, and therefore water. What was the best bowling for the next match according to you? Okay, the best bowling line for the next match, you're going to have to. Boland's been okay. Cummins has been pretty ordinary as well. Line, the three. They need two more. Tom Murphy may be warranted. I'd actually bring Agar in. I think he deserves a chance to. It was quite a startling, shocking decision. Exclude Travis Head from playing 11. It was a supply. Yeah, it's Cameron Green's the first one they'll reselect. Okay, and that will sort out somewhat of the issue we've got. That'll be one of the ones they'll do. Cameron Green will be reselected. So stick with Warner, Khawaja, Labuschagne, Smith, Head, Cam Green, Carey, Lyon, Todd Murphy now, and Boland and Cummins until Stark gets back and Hazelwood gets back. I don't know whether that's going to necessarily do anything. All right, we're going to get... Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us. Well, view, like, and share the posts. Make sure you subscribe. Join me tomorrow. We'll talk more about cricket. Last 2 points. Did Australia make the pitch look worse than it actually was? Yes, I think they did. Here's the chord, by the way. Hey, Norman, do you think Australia didn't create much chances out there? Oh, very ordinary. Very, very ordinary indeed, DSC. Very ordinary indeed. So, now 11:30. Trailer. It's time for me to go to bed. I've been on the show for 2 hours now. We need to be able to recruit for tomorrow. We may be going to Orange. So that's all possibly going to happen here. If you can tell me what other questions. Good night, Pratik Anand. It's time to go. If anyone's there that's not subscribing, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for me. It's good for our channel. Okay, so good night to everybody. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Very, very close to a record. Okay. Numbers are dropping. So thank you again for your time. Good night, my friend. Bustle-Dale is another person. We really are in a situation where it's late. I've got people knocking on my door, wanting to come in here, and we'll finish up appropriately, okay? Okay. All the best. Good night.